So today is the last opportunity we have for practicing with Chong An Sunim.
Thank you for the opportunity to practice with you.
I'm very grateful to have him here, and he's been here for now, I guess, 9 days. And we've had a wonderful time on Tuesday night at Fogartyville Community Center. We had a great talk, and someone had brought up, why is it that the Dharma, the teachings, are so difficult to, I'm paraphrasing, to bring in large groups of people? And the comparison was to mega churches. Here we are, and religions have all these churches everywhere and all these ways of gathering people together. And what's different about how we do things, and why isn't there so many people coming to join us? Well, unfortunately, there is no carrot at the end of the stick. Everything is already there, and it's up to everyone individually to discover that. So the other questions were around our general condition, why the world is the way it is, politically, socially, what's happening. And all of that, I think, brought up some things that I would like Sunim to talk about. So I don't want to spend a lot of time today talking, so I'm going to turn it over to Sunim. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think what I have seen in like 3 continents of the world, that you want somehow a holy person to reinforce you, to strengthen your views, that you're a good person, that someone loves you from above or kind of from level or even below. But somehow strengthen yourself that the way you are is good. And in Zen, we ask questions and encourage you to ask questions. What is this? What is my direction? Why do I do what I'm doing? And this makes you grow up. Most religions treat you like a child or sheep or something. But we treat you like an adult. In fact, it's worse than that, because we treat you like a human being with Buddha nature, i.e. the potential to wake up. So if Will wanted to make some commercial, he would say, we offer awakening. Then they would ask, what is this? We don't know. Bummer. It's a tough deal to sell Zen, because you can't. You can indicate it, teach it. It's very subtle. It's very tough. So sometimes it's hard to sit. But unless people have the inclination to try it, no matter how much we talk, there's not going to be any real experience to offer. So if you start practicing, you lose some of your illusions, you change your mind, you change your view, and that's something most people don't want. But I'm not political, and I will never be. I'm just answering questions and sharing some insights with you, trying to keep my decency and straightforwardness at the same time. Society can operate in 3 distinct groups. One is kind of the highlight of this country: free market, competition. You go out there, make your way, make your wealth, become successful, etc. Okay, that's the yang part. So hunt, bring the game home, put it on the table. The yin part, sitting there waiting for this to happen, to receive this. That's why it's yin, because it's receptive. So in any state, the yang is the free market, and the yin is your IRS, your state, that collects the taxes and redistributes it to everyone who has entitlements. So the yang is regulated by the yin, and the yin is nourished by the yang. If there is no income, there is no tax. And if there is no redistribution, society falls apart, because you don't get healthcare, education, etc., etc. So if the yin is corrupt, then it only absorbs resources and does not give you back anything, or just very little of it. If the yang is corrupt, then it doesn't give back home anything, and there's no taxes paid. And the reason I'm saying this, and there'll be a third one as I promised, but I leave it as a punchline, because I lived through both kinds of societies. I was born in socialism, the offshoot of communism, which was not nearly as bad as in the Soviet Union or let alone North Korea or Indochina. But it was a very static society. It was extremely yin. It was always about appropriation, redistribution, and make everybody feel secure like a big mother. And always wants to have the kids, at home, well fed, but you cannot go outside. You can see the opposite in those countries where you have only yang, deregulated markets, where the private sector rules everything and the public sector is drained. So public schools, healthcare, everything is just drained because there are no redistribution and enough tax to do that. So extreme yang is just as bad as extreme yin. Extreme yin locks up society, extreme yang rips it apart. It goes into strata that don't meet. It's like 2 different or 3 different worlds for the ultra rich, the wealthy, the middle class, and the lower middle class, and they don't meet, and there are no services, no compassion, no ways to meet and balance the imbalances and somehow manage the inequalities. And that leads to a lot of suffering, just like the ultra yin led to a lot of suffering. Yang means overproduction, yin means underproduction. And how do you see that it's out of balance? Now comes the third part. So if a society is well developed and in balance, then there's a lot of charity, a lot of nonprofits. That's how you see that it works, because it can provide for all that. And real foundations, not just foundations for secretly kind of funneling resources into either the yin or the yang, but it's doing its job, its charitable purposes, based on the rules of the yin and the activity of the yang. So correct legal system, correct financial system results in correct society. But if either of them is breached or corrupt, then society falls either into the yin or into the yang. So what we teach is the middle way. What we teach is awakened mind. Wherever you are in any layer of society, you should see how you are interconnected. And that kind of interconnection is paramount. It's important to recognize that why your poverty makes me poor. Your suffering creeps through my door. And if people don't believe that, then they should look around and study a little bit of history, how war and peace kind of changed over and over again. And that's why the direction of a society depends on the direction of each and every individual who make decisions in their capacity. So I think I have now made this basic structure very clear. And what I've said is actually very simple and easy to understand. What is shocking for me that people in very high decision-making positions, they don't recognize this. And if they don't, they'll make horrendous mistakes, and sometimes, in our eyes, intentionally. We call that willful ignorance. And willful ignorance leads to predictable suffering. And that predictable suffering is something we can try to avoid by making better decisions, keeping our minds more clear. And here to list one of the disadvantages why we have no megachurches, because Buddhism is not a converting religion. In our eyes, it's not even a religion. It has transcendental dimension. It has a very human approach. It has a universal teaching on the law of cause and effect called Dharma. You can formulate it into a religion. Personally, I love altars, I love mantras, I love bowing and chanting and sitting because they work. Makes me clear, makes the whole group, the Sangha, clear. But it's not religion in a way that you expect something from outside, from above, or from a very powerful person. So how do freedom and responsibility meet? We call that conscious thought of cause and effect, and developing, based on wisdom and compassion, the interaction between the yin, the yang, and the neutral, or the non-selfish. Okay, that's not wrong. And if that balance is lost, the middle way is lost, then public good, public use, public thought, or in Hungarian, köz means public, and public means also közjog, the legal system that kind of holds society together. You know, when these extremes happen, then some people believe they are above the law. It's a clear sign of trouble. It's not just a little trip. Look at the Roman Empire. You had the Romulus and Remus time, then the Julius and Augustus, Caesars in the middle, then came Caligula and Nero burned Rome. So I think awakened people follow the path, ignorant people stray off the path. How do you notice? By the behavior, by the way speech, action, emotions, and thoughts converge in us. And that's how the image of a personality appears. So when we stray off the path, we create difficult times. Difficult times then create more awakened people. More awakened people create easier times, then people fall asleep. And then, so the question is, how do we wake up when times are hard? And how do we keep our awakened mind when times are easier? That's why we have to be really careful how we formulate our own views and how we relate to each other. And I think this is plenty for an intro, and I would like to welcome questions, arguments, disagreements, whichever you have. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, making the decisions and contributing, but without attachment. So I don't want to be identified as, oh, this person who's now a extremist or like an activist of this thing, and this is what my life's purpose is to achieve this result. It's about doing the right thing, and then, okay, that was the next thing to do. And that, to me, is a struggle.
It's a struggle, but I don't think that you have to kind of go blind and deaf and not identify. You have to recognize, but not attach to the recognition. So if you see someone carrying a gun, that person is armed, but you don't know whether dangerous or not. Armed because you have seen it, but no more labels. Watch carefully, observe. Okay, a few minutes. I mean,
that's what community is for. Like, you can't have a controlled burn without everybody tending to that same fire. So we're all tending to our suffering in our own way, but we have to come together to make sure it doesn't go out.
You said the key word. Chong An Sunim was asked, "Sir, what is hard training?" He said, "Don't ask me. Just do it. Just do it. Don't make hard." Sir, we know you have trained hard, so please tell us what's hard training. So eventually he answered and said, okay. So what do you want to know? Sir, is 90-day retreat a culture hard training? He says, no. It's like a wonderful cruise ship. You have your captain, first officer, and all, everyone, and you're there. You do your job, whether scrubbing the deck or cleaning dishes. 90-day cruise, you come back to the port of entry. And we call that Prajna ship, the ship of wisdom. Okay, sir, if it's not the hardest training, then what is it? Living in a Zen center, going back to work, being a layperson or a monk? I said, no. Living in a Sangha is wonderful because you put your energy together, perceive suffering together, practice the Dharma together. It's not difficult. So they asked him, so then what is the most difficult thing for us humans? He says, cooperation. In his word, together action. So both in my Sangha and in my family, I notice that if I have a conflict, I have to face it. That means I face the person, not ignore it or do something behind his or her back or try to separate, etc. Because these are all the actions of fear or anger, some reaction of the ego. But staying together, recognizing each other also in conflict, and resolving our differences by sharing time and space and effort, that's high-class human practice. And that's not what we are seeing most of the time when people are in trouble. So this slash and burn means let go of your idea of self, of your own egotistical behavior. And this together action means I recognize that somebody else is different from me in body, speech, and mind. Yet I know that our Buddha nature is the same. That's the only thing that links us together, but that does infallibly. So we tolerate the differences. In fact, we build on the differences so that it could support our experience of unity. And I don't think we can go too far without that. There have been times in human history, like the Tang Dynasty China, 600 to 860 AD, and the Shilla Dynasty Korea, roughly the same, 500 to 900 AD, where they really fostered Buddhism. And it's not about Buddhism, it's about the results. Results were more enlightened society, less wars, less suffering, more cohesion, more natural togetherness. So that together action, by together practicing, has increased our awareness, therefore our perception of the fact of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the way to end suffering. And that's why we talk about the Four Noble Truths first, and not just love. Love is great, but it's a result. If you take away hindrance, any kind of hindrance, people know how to be happy. You don't have to tell them how to be happy. Just teach them how to remove the hindrances from being happy. And they can do it by themselves. Now, these centuries you've seen in the West is the opposite. They tell you, love is this, happiness is this, ideal life is this. There are more and more hindrances. So people are more and more confused, okay? And by the way, what Will mentioned in his intro was the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the definition of the way out of suffering. So when we do this kind of together action, then correct speech, correct attitude, correct action, correct energy, correct livelihood, correct awakening, correct meditation, they all appear. And what makes them correct is our own clarity together. That's what makes it correct. So if you see, you can get into a traffic jam, correct? Full of emotions, more potholes. So what I'm trying to drive at is that if your mind has enough energy that it goes beyond all phenomena, then from your beautiful cruising attitude, you look at the highway system, how can this happen? And those people who are sitting in the vehicles, they're either sad, angry, try to find something to do, try to figure out when this jam will be over, etc. So when we practice, then it's exactly this limitation, your own vehicle, your own self, the exoskeleton of your ego, that's what you're trying to remove. So if I may paraphrase, it's the non-self-driven awakening. That's why, as we've heard from Andrea, this together action, this intentional slash and burn of your own karma is the only way to create the pure land. There's no other way. There's no special hurricane that can build things up, okay? It only destroys. So inside, if you take away the wrong views, too much information, too many dualities, your energy level naturally increases. And the more together action we do, like practicing together, that is exponential. I've seen it, I've experienced it with larger sanghas, smaller sanghas, Korea, America, Europe. And your energy level is high enough because your information is not dispersed or scattered. Then the whole perspective changes and everything becomes manageable. Okay? That's all we need to do. But if we stay at ground level, then at every intersection, red or green. Every way out of the city, jammed or free or moderate. And so without transcendental wisdom, without oneness, without increased energy and clarity and uncluttered mind, no one can go forward. No one. Okay, that's why we need teaching, teacher, and fellow students, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Without these three, no way.
Your day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for your attention and your kind presence. Thank you, Will, for your generosity. Thank you.
Be well. See you next time.